Good afternoon. Welcome back to the B&H virtual event space. You're tuned in to Photographing in the Moment. Today, we're having a conversation with award-winning commercial editorial photographer and videographer, also the director of creative services and photography for the wonderful Boston Red Sox and co-founder of Bold Creative Group. Quite an impressive resume, Mr. Billie Weiss. Billy, what's going on, man?
Hey Derek, how are you? Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Look, couldn't thank you enough for joining us. As a huge baseball and sports fan, this is one that touches a personal note for me. So I want to thank you for coming on. Special thank you to Richard out there for patching us together and getting you on the program.
For sure. Yeah. Big shout out to Richard over at Leica. And I don't know, are you a Yankees fan? I hear your accent. I have to ask.
I, I
I
can't.
do.
I had to try to blur it out. I'm like, man, it's like we got some images I saw come through of Verdugo, and I'm like, is this gonna cause some bad blood between us?
Yes.
So, look, at the end of the day, it's sports is sports, and I think
Yeah.
every kid who played little league growing up, it's then and especially the ones that then move into the creative side of things. This is a dream job. So as we said in the green room before going live, I'm sure this is going to be a lot of exciting stories, but also a sobering reminder that this is a job for you and it's work at the end of the day. So I want to start right there. What got you into photography and video?
Yeah, well, I grew up in a very creative household, so that's kind of what started the exploration of like the medium. My dad is a fine artist and my mom's a concert pianist, so classical pianist. So, I grew up around the arts, around music, being exposed to a lot of visuals. So I think, photography came at a little bit of a later time, but just the understanding of like the creative world was really there from day one. In high school, I picked up a camera, took some darkroom photography classes in high school, really enjoyed it. It felt like it came kind of more naturally to me than, the regular subjects in school. And I didn't really think much of it at the time, but really when I got to college, I started to pick it up more, moving into digital, and then, shooting for the student newspaper. And so that's kind of what got me shooting on a regular basis with assignments that actually had me shooting with a purpose, not just, finding my friends and taking photos or walking around and taking photos of like flowers or trees or whatever. It was actually like things happening. And so it was like that kind of sequence of events that like really got me hooked and into it. And it was at that point that I decided like, okay, I think I want to, try and make something out of this and see where it would take me from there.
Now, for most people, if when they say, I think I'm going to try to make something out of this, it's like, I'm going to shoot weddings or
Right.
I'm going to do family portraits. How did the sports thing, was it on the radar from the start or did you kind of just fall into it?
Yeah, well, you mentioned like, growing up playing little leagues, I was one of those kids. I mean, I grew up, playing baseball my whole, childhood from little leagues to through varsity high school. And I played tennis in college, D3 tennis program. And, so I was always around sports. I was, always playing, I was always watching, I was always a fan. And I felt like, it was a natural way to take photography because that's what I loved. It's what I understood. So, in college, like a lot of those assignments were gravitating towards shooting the lacrosse or soccer or football or anything that they had going on. And it just felt like that was what I gravitated towards. And so when I did, go to start looking for professional opportunities and internships, which was the first step in my professional career, I was looking for sports related opportunities. I didn't know at the time, like for sure, that's what I wanted to do. But that's what I thought would be the most fun, and I really wasn't overthinking it at the time. It was just like I like sports, I like photography. Let's see if I can find something that could merge the two together.
I mean, having this conversation years after that has got to be super satisfying and gratifying to see that you've been able to make a career of it. For a lot of people, it's a pipe dream and it doesn't really lead to much, but that's it's kind of awesome that your career path has led you to this point, right?
It really is. I mean, I still pinch myself thinking about how some of the things worked out the way they did. But it was a lot of hard work to get to those various steps and a lot of networking and a lot of meeting and talking with the right people to get you in the position to make it happen. And then also just a little bit of luck, being in the right place at the right time. So, I was able to land the first internship with the Baltimore Orioles when I was a sophomore in college, uh, interning under the team photographer Todd Olszewski, and that was really what started everything and solidified, like, okay, this is the path that I want to go down. This is the type of work that I want to be doing. This is what I'm passionate about. And it was able to build from there. But really, it was like working to get into that first step was the biggest piece. And if that didn't happen, who knows how it would have played out. So it is funny to think about, like, those big moments along the way that kind of like lead to the rest of it.
What's the biggest thing looking back that was probably made the biggest impact on what ended up shaping up as your career? Was there one thing that kind of stood out to you, or was there one moment where you're like, okay, this is it?
Well, I think I had taken it upon myself to really be like shooting every single day, like as much as I could possibly get the camera in my hand. And that led to, at the time, what I perceived as a deep body of work and a technically sound body of work. Looking back at it now, like I laugh at the photos, and I still think it's a miracle that I got into that internship, but with the portfolio that I had displayed. Um, but I do remember, like, there was a chance encounter. So I mentioned I played tennis in college. I went to this professional tennis exhibition that was happening in Baltimore, just as a fan with my teammates. It was like Serena Williams was in town playing like an exhibition. And we went, and at the end of it, I saw the sports photographers down there shooting, and I went up to one of them and I just asked, like, do you have any, advice or suggestions for, a young up and coming photographer? And he ended up giving me his business card, and he was at the time a staff photographer for the Associated Press out of Baltimore and Washington, D.C. And we met later, got to chatting. He gave me all kind of advice about the work, and just the industry in general. And then when it came time to apply for that Orioles internship, he ended up actually putting in a really good, strong word for me for that job. But it was that chance, like, encounter of just going up to him and talking. If I hadn't done that, again, like, I don't know if the portfolio was good enough to just work itself in. So, something like that is what I think about, is like, all right, it got started by a very chance encounter, and had that not happened, who knows where we'd be.
I gotta ask, where did you grow up? Were you a Red Sox fan growing up, or was it kind of just something? Is that something that you take what you can get, or is it like, no, I gotta shoot for a team that I'm a fan of? How does that work?
Yeah, so I grew up outside of Baltimore, which is where I went to college. But my mom and her side of the family is from Massachusetts. So, growing up for the holidays, we would always be visiting my grandparents up this way. I have some cousins and aunts and uncles and up here. So, like, Orioles were always my team. Like, growing up in the '90s in Baltimore, it was a great time to be an Orioles fan. But Red Sox were always like number two, and maybe sometimes also number one. And like, really, when they made that kind of like '04, run, when they were like at the peak of the sports world, that's when I kind of became hooked. My AIM screen name was MLB Red Sox 22. I always talked about the Red Sox. I always told, people, like, I'm gonna go work for the Red Sox one day. So it was a little bit of both, but I would have never pictured that it would have happened the way it did. And I wasn't thinking about that at the beginning. I was just thinking about a good opportunity to learn, the skills you need to be a sports photographer from good people at a good organization. I didn't really care where it was from at the time.
So in 2004, when your life was just starting the upward trend, my
Right.
sports world was crashing down.
Yes, exactly.
It's
Exactly.
like
But you guys have had plenty of success. So, Red Sox fans had it tough for a while. So it's a trade-off.
I'm gonna have to concede to you for the next 45 minutes because I can't say anything past 2003.
Yeah.
Hasn't been much of a run. But we did talk about that, being fans, and it's like I told you, had seen a position open up with the Yankees, and it's something that you consider. you know, I was sitting here thinking, like, do I throw my career away and go back and start over and become an intern at the age of 40 and, just to work for a team I love? Has this been the right career move for you? Has it been something that really is a dream?
Absolutely. It is no doubt a dream job, and there's no way around it. It was a dream job from the beginning, and it still remains even through, 13 years and ups and downs and a lot of hard work and a lot of hours. It is for sure still a dream job, and I am very, very aware that there are tons of folks in the creative industry and otherwise who would kill to work for a team like the Red Sox and be in a position like the one I have. So I feel very grateful, very lucky, and yes, remind myself every day, even on the tough days, that it is very much a dream job, and that's something that's hard to put past you for sure. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
I mean, especially with such a storied franchise. I mean, just looking at your body of work, you've got to photograph some super cool moments, whether you're into sports or not, whether you're a Red Sox fan or not. Me as a Yankees fan, looking at some of these images,
yeah,
this is the stuff that it's like it goes above your TV, it goes above your couch. Like these are iconic moments. I gotta ask, man, that's a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure. You're in the moment. I mean, we build this whole thing photographing in the moment. Because for
hmm
me, it's like when I look at your body of work, all the commercial work aside,
hmm
that it's like you have a team, you can set stuff up. If you don't hit a shot,
exactly,
you can do it over. You're
exactly,
it's all controlled circumstances. Ad campaigns. Yes, they're high pressure, they're high stress, but it's controlled circumstances. Some of these moments that you've captured, it's like you get one shot. You can't be like, hey guys, go back in the dugout
right.
and we're gonna do this again, run out on the field. And what is it like? I mean, it's mayhem.
Yeah,
Do you just black out and rely on instincts? Because you are a very technically sound
right.
photographer, and I think that probably a lot of it leans on that, right?
Totally. And like it's so much easier when you become like technically sound and proficient and you don't have to think about any of that as a variable. When I started out, like those early years with the Orioles, I was like freaking out for all those high pressure moments because I was still thinking about like, all right, what settings do I need to have just to get a photo that's like technically correct, let alone like actually capture what happens. But then like the more you do it, you kind of work past that, and it's just, it's like muscle memory and instinct, and you don't have to think about that. And so you can then, kind of repurpose all that energy into actually focusing on like how this scene is going to play out in front of you. And I think, it's honestly like years of repetition. You think about a baseball season, 162 games, like I've shot a lot of baseball. So like you come to learn what to expect. There are certain trends and tendencies that you can watch for, and also working with the team, you get to know your players and their tendencies on a pretty intimate level. And so you have an inclination of which way they're going to react, which way the play is going to go, what they're going to do after they hit a home run or they strike out, when to go in and be close versus when to kind of keep it wider and looser. You just do so much hours of it that it kind of becomes instinctual. And when it comes to like the pressure part of it, like I try to remind myself in those moments, like it is a lot of pressure, but it's not like this is baseball at the end of the day. We work in the playground of life. Like this is not solving world peace or going to war, or like it's not that deep in a lot of ways. So although a lot of people care and it means a lot to a lot of people, like end of the day, it's a baseball game. So if you screw up, you screw up. Try and minimize those times that you do screw up, and hopefully it works out for the best. So that's kind of like the mentality that I have in those like high stakes moments.
It's a nice way to kind of talk yourself off the ledge and just be like,
For
you know,
sure.
this is keep me kind of calm and grounded in the moments like that.
The real pressure is on the athletes, like that's what's impressive, and I think like my job is to document that, and I've worked very hard to get that kind of down to a science, and so it shouldn't feel like too much pressure on my end.
Mhm. How have you seen it change? I mean, it's cool that you've been in it long enough to where you were there before this whole social media blitz.
Yeah,
Again, we talked about before we went live
yeah,
about how sports franchises, especially your more esteemed franchises like Red Sox, Yankees, you have these franchises that are associated with such a old stoic tradition. And now you've seen brands like, I mean, the Buffalo Bills come to mind because
hmm
I mean, they're just their social media gets just straight up chaotic at times with
right,
some of the YouTube poop style
right.
videos that
Weird
they
against stuff.
do,
Yeah, right.
and that culture has kind of shaped where we've gone now with social media. how have you seen it change as far as what you guys are tasked with? I mean,
Yeah.
you're the creative voice, you're the creative vision of a storied franchise that goes back decades. You know, you have a winning tradition that you have to associate, but you also have to tie in trends and you have to stay relevant, and you it's a business. You have to grow the fan base, and the fan base now requires that you need access to players and all that. So I want to know, how has that changed? And I'm guessing the players, it's kind of commonplace now, whereas the early days you had to kind of poke and prod and get them a little comfortable with it. But can you talk a little bit about that process?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, when I started at the Sox 2012, there was basic social, but it was not a central part of what we did at all. So really you were photographing for the magazine and the archives. And that was kind of like what you did in any other like internal print material or advertisement in print. And then over the years, it really did change. And obviously now social is at the forefront and the primary responsibility of pretty much everything we do. So it changed the workflow because everything became real time. We had to file real time in the photo pit. We need to get the stuff out. We need to turn it around quickly, get it all into the archives so that our stakeholders and people around the organization can use it and distribute it that same night. So then the next day we can start over and do the whole process again. So the pace of everything has really sped up over the course of the years. And I think that's good. It's fun. It keeps it moving and keeps it fresh and interesting. And then on the player side, yeah, it has been really fascinating to see the kind of transformation. Obviously, the players that I started photographing when I first got here had no social media, and gradually, some of them have caught on. And now, like the young wave of players, really, I think this is the first kind of wave now that is like natively grew up with these platforms. And so, these prospects that are coming up through the system now in the various levels of the minors and on the cusp of being in the majors right now, those are the players that really understand it on a deep level, and they love the content because they've got their own platforms, they've got their own channels, they want to use that stuff to build their brand and their image, and we act as kind of an agency and a resource to provide them with all of that. So it's really interesting to see that transformation over time in the players. And of course, there are some that are into it and some that could care less and do without it. And that's totally fine. You kind of respect both sides of it. But it has become definitely a major part of the equation for sure.
I was going to say, it's got to be, like you said, it's at the forefront. It's got to be
Yeah.
primarily what what you're going for now. That's what everybody wants. As far as creative vision, how does it work? I mean, are you guys, because I know there are certain organizations that outsource everything to creative agencies, and some organizations it's all done in-house.
Mhm.
Is it like any other brand where you guys have a brand vision where it's who's in charge of that brand vision as far as what you guys put out has to represent? There's a big legal book somewhere of
Yeah.
everything that has to be done. There's brand guidelines that have to be followed. There's style guides.
Yes.
How does all that work?
Yeah, we have all that as it relates to like the brand, and that I think goes more into like the design and the marks and the uniforms and all that stuff. But I think on the photography side, we have naturally developed a certain style, but I don't think it's like written in code or like formally written out somewhere. Maybe we should do that as an exercise. It would be good. But I think, generally as a staff, our photo team shoots with a very bold, very vibrant, colorful style, a lot of kind of larger than life images that fill the frame, high energy, kind of popping off the screen or the page. And then also leaning on our ability to create access for ourselves and showcase the players in a way that nobody else can, just based on the access we have. So those are, I think, kind of like the central, tenets of our work. Again, it's not really written down, but I think, as you look through the archives and you see the years of photography that have come through this place, that is the general theme, the general takeaway, and the general like look of the work. And I think you naturally kind of catch on when you're kind of part of this team and you try and emulate that style a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, when you say the bold and that vibrancy, to the
Yeah.
images. It says your work when we look at your body of work, which we're going to take a look at in a little bit. It is very bold, very colorful. It jumps off the screen. Is that your personal touch that you've helped create the some of the creative direction that the brand has gone as far as imagery is concerned?
I think a little bit is my personal touch, but I think it's also a product of looking at the previous photographers and folks that have came through this organization. This is a 100-plus-year-old franchise. I am just one photographer that's been here for 13 years. So there were amazing, talented folks before me who were in this role or a similar role for the time and era that they were in. And looking through, I look through their work all the time, and that style was there before me. So it's building off of the great work that has come before with maybe infusion of a little bit of whatever I've been able to contribute to keep that moving forward and growing.
That's awesome. Now I want to move to Bolt. I want to know how this came about. I mean, most people would be content just director of creative services and photography, but where did the idea for Bolt Creative Group come in, and what's the future like for that?
Yeah, I have a problem where like I'm kind of like never content with where I'm at. It's a good thing and a bad thing. So sometimes I gotta just like chill out and relax a little bit. But yeah, so like over the course of my time here, I've been a pretty active freelance photographer as well. I've always thought that it's like important to diversify just the work you're doing, and from a creative standpoint, like just shooting baseball all the time can actually get to you, especially given the length of the season. So, over the years, I had been doing a lot of freelance work for, a lot of different clients, and it started, mostly in like live sports, and then has kind of slowly transitioned to more of the commercial work. And really decided in 2020 with another photographer colleague of mine, Adam Glansman, who's also in Boston, super incredibly talented photographer and great friend of mine. We decided to kind of try and form an entity, a company, a partnership that was aimed at a bigger production. So something that would require more than just a single photographer, showing up and shooting a game or an event or even a campaign. And so, yeah, for the past 3-4 years, we've been building up the production company, full service production company aimed at visual content for brands and businesses. So getting into more like TV commercials, brand campaigns, commercial shoots, that type of thing. I think we've gravitated naturally toward the sports, lifestyle, entertainment realm, just based on the body of work and experience and contacts that we both have. But it's something that we're continuing to grow. It is a work in progress, but it's been a really exciting opportunity first, and yeah, looking forward to grow and expand upon it for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, I would have never reached out if it wasn't for the phone call with Richard.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my watch and I'm like, man, I'm like, pitchers and catchers are reporting. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't want to get in this guy's way. And then I really start to look into your work, and I'm like, he's got a creative agency on top of it. I'm like, I'm never going to be able to land this guy even for an hour. He's going to be jumping
Oh, for
back and
sure.
forth. But I mean, you got a lot going on, and you're not just a still photographer. I know you have video incorporated. Have you always been into video, or when did that come along? I mean, it's a necessity now to be a hybrid shooter, I think,
Right.
especially when you're doing commercial and editorial work. How did your path to video lead in?
Yeah, I definitely agree. It is kind of a necessity now if you want to work in kind of a sports realm like this. It really came on kind of with like that the growth of the social. So like, the years like 13, 14, 15, like 2013, 14, 15, that was kind of like when it was all really starting to become part of it. So, I tried every chance I could to switch to video and just like experiment and grow and, learn from others in Boston who were doing video, learn kind of the editing side of things, and just felt like it was a way to, make myself a more valuable asset, both at the Red Sox and, with the freelance work that I was doing. I'm a decent video shooter. By no means like a world-class DP or anything. If it's something that requires like high-end video, we are bringing in a DP who specializes in video for sure. But for quick run and gun social type content, I can do it when I need to. I can step in when I need to for sure.
Is that something you aspire to do more of, or to work out? Or are you kind of content to stay in your photo
I feel like
lighting?
I'm content at the level that I'm at because I'm never gonna be like one of these amazing DPs. And if it gets to the point where you need somebody like that, I'd be more comfortable bringing somebody in who specializes in that and just, kind of helping with my creative input, but letting the people who are really good at what they do, do that best and not getting in the way of that.
Mhm. Now, everybody has like either a mantra or an approach to photography. Your work, as we had said, it's very, very bold, very vivid, very colorful. What is it? Is that really just it? That your approach to photography is really just to keep it bold and fresh, or is there any creative techniques that you employ that really drive home your style?
I think in addition to those things, like the clean background is I would say a staple of what I always look for. And that's something that I learned from, speaking with the wire photographers over the years whose work I've, admired and looked at. Is really finding whenever possible a background that is not distracting in any way. So avoiding advertisements, like avoiding, busy gates or wires or things that are in the back of your frame, really like always trying to compose the shot so that it's composed as cleanly as it possibly can. I think that's one of the things that I always look for. And then just like mixing the compositions, like doing the super tight stuff, doing the wide stuff, kind of like getting that diversity in each take that I do, and not just sticking to like every shot is on the 70 to 200 or every shot is on the 400. Usually when I'm shooting a game, I have three bodies on me: a wide, a 70 to 2, and a a telephoto. So, and that's by design. I need to use all of those. And when I'm not, I feel like that's when I'm falling flat. So I think those are the kind of the things that generally I look for, and the rest kind of carries itself. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, definitely. I was actually going to move to the gear thing, and you led
Yeah,
us right there. 'Cause
happy
I,
to talk through
you
it.
already answered the question. I was like, is he typical sports photographer bogged down with three bodies?
Yeah.
Yes. Is there one go-to? Is there one like if you have a one camera setup, what's your one camera go-to setup?
Honestly, I feel like the 72 is like the most versatile lens. You can do anything. You can do portraits, you can do action, you can do sort of wide stuff. Not really, but if I was like on a deserted island, I think I would bring, I would bring that one with me. And then we're Nikon folks at the Red Sox. We've been that way for a long time. So we're on the Z9s right now. Incredible, incredible mirrorless camera. So, combination of those and the D series. So it's like the D4, D4S, D5, D6, like through that transformation. Those have all been incredible, and the lenses as well. So that's the setup that I'm rocking and most familiar with.
Nice. And I've heard that autofocusing on the Z9 is top, industry
It's like
top. It's one of the
cheating. It's
best.
like it's like you're cheating. Like it's so fast. It's like so fast. Um, the technology is just so crazy right now. Sometimes it's like almost too fast, So, but it really elevates what you're able to do for sure. And it's been fun kind of making that transition and learning the mirrorless workflow.
The mirrorless workflow has to be just a godsend for sports and action photographers now. It's like you have autofocus that's picking up bodies before it even recognizes it's a body and then following it. And the technology is crazy.
That and also like the silent shutter capability is really a game changer for those kind of more intimate parts of the job when you're in the weight room or in the locker room or the batting cage where they know you're there and they know your presence, but you're not clicking away on the shutter. That has really made a difference in what we're able to do and where we'll be able to go. So that's something that has really changed things for us, I think, in a great way with the mirrorless.
Mhm. Now, what about personal projects? Do you take on any personal work? I mean, I don't even know if you have time for
Yeah.
that. Is that something where you have time to get it, or what's your release?
My release is not work. So like my release is family. I've got a 16-month-old daughter and an amazing wife at home, and they are my release and my like exit from the stress of the job. But as far as the personal work goes, been trying to pick that up more in the past 2 to 3 years. And really in the personal sense, I will use like an opportunity to do personal work as something that I want to pitch or go after for, a client or, brand or company that I would love to work for. So try to kind of do test projects and test shoots that emulate a certain style of a brand or a certain type of photography that I don't necessarily have too much of in my portfolio. And then, do a kind of mutually beneficial shoot for everyone involved, talent, video, stylist, photographer. And then, we can all use that for our various portfolios and pitching and hopefully, gain more business. So been working those in. I would love to do more, but 3 or 4 a year right now is kind of like where I pace. And it's great to just like have no constraints, no boxes you have to check. Just it's your vision and whatever you want to make, you can do. No time limit, no clock, none of that. It's all kind of under your control. So yeah, definitely trying to do a lot more of that for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely got to be a lot more freeing than the pressure and deadlines and of the professional work.
Yeah, it's pure. It's you're having fun and it's your creative vision. That's as pure as it gets. That's as most as you can ask for
Yeah.
sure.
Now I gotta go cliche for these next
Do it.
questions. Pinnacle moment. Is there a pinnacle moment or someone you photographed that you were just like you're standing there and you're like, holy crap, I'm here, like I'm photographing this. And
Yeah.
is there anybody on your list that you're like top you would love to photograph one day?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I would say pinnacle moment for Red Sox was 2018 winning the World Series. I was here for the World Series in 2013, but I was still just like figuring everything out. And I was working, as like part-time photographer basically for that run. Whereas in 2018, like I was, embedded with the team. I fully understood what was going on. Had more of a presence for that run, and it was like kind of just like the culmination of like all the hard work of all the years, coming to this like pinnacle moment of the win and just all the success that the team had. So I feel like that stands out as a career pinnacle for me, just because it represents like all your hard work as well to get to that point. Um, there's been so many times where I've pinched myself and been like, I can't believe I'm just like standing here doing this. I'm a big tennis fan, so I've done a bit of tennis around the tour, and so was around for a lot of the Roger Federer, Rafa, Nadal, Novak Djokovic era. Um, there's one time at Indian Wells, which is a tournament in California, where I was like in the tunnel, like 2 feet in front of Roger. Uh, he looked right down the barrel of the lens, beautiful like shot right into camera, and that ended up being the cover photo of his like official calendar for that year. And that was like when I like totally geeked out. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. He's like my favorite
That's
athlete,
awesome.
So that was like, oh man, that was pretty surreal. So that's one that sticks out for sure. Um, Man, as far as people that I would like to photograph, I haven't really done anything with like Tiger, like Tiger Woods. I think that would be like, I'm fascinated by these, like the goats, like the
Yeah.
guys, athletes, men and women that are just like on a completely different level and you can see and tell. So I think like Tiger would be one that would be really cool but I'd like to do like more of like a commercial shoot or portraits or something with him versus like in action, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I saw you got TB12. That's the goat of all goats,
The
as
goat.
far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned. I mean, he's up. Him and Jordan are on a level that I think.
Oh yeah, Jordan, like that'd be amazing. Like, Walter Yost is one of my all-time like creative idols, inspiration, and like his collection of work, I mean, with all of them is incredible, like the depth of that stuff. So stuff like that is super inspiring to me for sure.
I love that. Well, look, you got through the difficult portion of the interview, which is the
That
talking part, and now
wasn't
now
too
we get to
bad.
look at some images. See, that wasn't too bad. We're gonna pull some images up here, and just feel free to talk us through these and
Cool.
anything that jumps out to you. If there's any stories or if there's anything, if you want to talk technical and any
Yeah.
challenges or anything that you remember from these shoots. So
So this is a test shoot. This is a personal project test shoot. So just kind of like what we were talking about earlier. Adam and I did this one together for Bolt. So yeah, basically, we worked with a wardrobe stylist here that we love, that we work with all the time, to kind of come up with some different looks for kind of a more like fashion shoot. We don't really have a ton of like fashion apparel work in our portfolio. So we felt like, that's something we wanted, a hole we wanted to fill. So yeah, rented a studio, hired a model to kind of model off a few different looks. And, we played around with some kind of creative lighting and colors and gels. That's, I think, a sort of staple of like the Bolt look is the bright colors and the kind of gel look. This is actually using a gobo. So you can see kind of like the shadowy pattern on the wall and through the figure there. That's a result of the gobo. So there's a series of these images, with different colors and different patterns and outfits. But this was one that we did recently as a test project. So just felt like it was cool with the colors and the motion and kind of like the vibrant nature of it.
Awesome test shot that would bury most people's portfolios. There we go. Big moment right there.
All right. So this is Red Sox winning the World Series in 2013. So okay, a couple of things about this one. The one that I think is the funniest is the guy with the camera there in the shot. He's actually now my boss, so he's the VP of creative. But back then he was, still down on the field shooting.
That's
I always
awesome.
like to remind him that like, hey, you ruined my photo right there. But it is cool. It's cool to see. Okay, so like this was on the so basically the Red Sox dugout was to the right of me here, so I'm on the same side as the Red Sox dugout. And so knowing that they would all kind of run in front of me and kind of block that tight shot, I knew that I wanted to go wider and just get kind of the whole scale so that I wasn't just shooting a tight frame of one person reacting and then blocked by all the people running in front of me. So, knew that this was kind of the shot I was going with, did not know that the fireworks were going to go off. That was like what kind of made the photo. And then, my counterpart, the team photographer at the time, Mike, was on the other side of the field, pretty much opposite to where I am. And he was getting that kind of like classic, like tight shot of the pitcher and catcher coming together. So it is very much teamwork oriented when you're in these leverage situations, and you're not the only one out there doing it. And everyone has a different kind of part to play or shot to get when you're, depending on where you are on the field. So that's what this one was.
When you're in a moment, I mean, obviously, going into the game, there's a chance this shot's going to happen. Are you
Right.
guys game planning that out? Is there anything,
Absolutely.
loose or strict shot list, or are you getting ready in anticipation of this moment?
Yeah, we're absolutely planning. We're talking through scenarios before the game, and then obviously everything changes in game and nothing goes according to plan, and then you're texting and scrambling trying to figure out like a game plan. So yeah, as much as you can, we have a game plan, and then you just have to rely on your skill and your instinct to do it when it actually happens, because it doesn't always happen according to plan. Even if you have it 5 minutes before all planned out, things change. So yeah, so you plan as much as you can, and then you just rely on your skill to nail it in the moment.
You're texting your boss right here, like you're in my shot.
Yeah,
He's,
I
he's
think
a
it's
little
funny.
occupied.
I think it's really funny. So same thing. This was from that same test shoot. So just completely different look, though, different outfit, different lighting setup, introducing kind of the props. So not much more to add there, except that it was just the versatility you could get from a test shoot and trying to, deliver a lot of different results and a large quantity of results within a 2 hour shoot is pretty cool and exciting.
Yeah, I love that. I didn't even realize it was shoot.
Yeah. All right, so this is for New Balance. This was for a release of a shoe. Again, this is another Bolt project we did. So these are two Olympic runners. And yeah, it's funny with these shoots because like as you kind of alluded to before, you have like full control. So like if it doesn't look right the first time, you can go redo it another time or a fifth time or a sixth time. And I think this one worked out because we had them run through a couple times, and like you see the form of the two figures is like matching basically and identical. So that's the, beauty, I think, of the commercial format is you have that control. You look for things with the client, like the foot placement, like when the shoe is striking the ground is the moment. And some shoe companies prefer the heel versus some shoe companies prefer the toe striking. So like things like that. But this was done here in Boston, kind of an industrial location and just like a nice clean image. I think this is exactly what I was talking about of like a clean background, no distractions, focus is on the subject, nice, like easy to look at, kind of like you read it, you get it right away kind of image.
It's interesting, all the little nuances of the work like this, like you said, like the striking of the foot. That
Yeah.
means everything. I mean, you have to sell it as a realistic image, and a lot of people aren't going to think about, well, the way the foot strikes. It tells you, is it a runner? Is it not a runner? The,
It's
the
it's almost like subliminal stuff in a way that we don't think about when we just see an advertisement or whatever, but it is definitely a factor in the commercial space. And as it should be, the
yeah,
brand should make sure that they have the images, projected the way that they want them to. And same thing with like the clothing, like when you're running, for example, it's hard to get the clothing to lie in a way that doesn't look like wrinkled or, flowing the wrong way. So it takes a bunch of takes to, to get this done right.
yeah, that's all the little stuff. It's like, got to make it a not a nightmare, but it makes it a lot more difficult. Is this a shot you were talking
This
about?
is the one. Yeah, this is the
See,
one.
and I thought this was like a setup. Like I'm like, he's got, lights
Exactly. Like
and
it has that look, and there's no. So this is like shot like all natural light. Like the court was kind of like radiating, like bouncing the sun, so it was like acting as like a reflector almost. So that's what gives him that kind of like glow. And then it was just like this is a 70-2, so he's probably 6 feet in front of me, something like that. And yeah, the lights in the tunnel in the background kind of give that like bokeh, those like orb effects. And it was a very like fleeting look into the camera and then it was gone, because he's looking all around, he's looking down, he's looking at his bags, whatever. But there's like that one split second where he like just stared right down the barrel of the lens. And it worked out. The next year, the tournament director of media, who's the person that hired me to shoot this tournament, good friend of mine, actually hooked up like a very quick meeting with Roger to sign the calendar cover. And I
that's
asked, like,
awesome.
it was so cool. Like, I got a photo with him and everything, and he signed it. And he wrote like "To Billy, nice pick" on the autograph, which was really cool. But I asked him like while he was signing, I was like, "Does this stuff like bother you? Like, do you even notice?" And he was like, "I don't see it. When I'm in there, I'm locked in." So I thought that was pretty cool. He's probably didn't even remember this happening.
That's awesome. It's the little stories like that. Like
Yeah,
I wouldn't even think I probably would be petrified on the spot, but it is cool because you wonder, like, do they think about it? Are they not even bothered? Are they so used to it?
I think they're so used to it that it just becomes part of it, and they don't even really see unless you're offensive and obviously like right up in their grill.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of what you do, I mean, it's one of those things where when you're in the circle, when you're in the club, part of it is being able to, you're not fanboying. You're a professional at that point. You're a professional the same way that they're professionals, and mutual respect for them as professional athletes that you guys have, that when, I think you said it earlier, when to stay away, when to give a little bit of space, and when you can kind of get up and get a little more personal with the access.
100%. You're not there as a fan. Even if you are a fan of the game or the player, you have to put that aside in the moment and you're there to do a job. And you have to work as, you have to present yourself as a professional and respect their space and the energy that they're putting off. And you do learn to kind of read that over time with athletes. And honestly, there are plenty of times when Red Sox players or other athletes have told me to F off, in those words or in nice words or whatever. And I get that. And that's totally fine and part of it. They are doing a job and you are in their space. So you kind of have to respect that and just present yourself as professional as possible and kind of take their cues as they give them to you.
And here I was thinking this was like a commercial shoot, and I'm like, he even got like the bokeh gives like the tennis ball vibes. I'm like,
Just
this
came together. Just came together. It's just
that's
like one of
awesome.
those things. Yeah.
Nice serendipitous moment.
Yeah. Okay. So, really fun story here. So this is also from 2018, so the Red Sox World Series run. So this is the manager of the Red Sox, Alex Cora, still the manager. But he was the boss, the jefe for that year. And behind him is what we call the win wall, or the wall of wins. So basically, he came to me with this idea at the beginning of the season, which was to take the photo that showed like the defining moment of every game that we won that season and hang it on the wall in his office in the clubhouse, and just see where it would go from there. So we started this first week of the season, and win by win, kind of game by game, this wall started to fill up. And it showed the key play, or the best player from every game that the team won that season. And it was really, really an amazing idea. I can't take credit for the idea. It was all Alex. I can just take credit for, executing and finding the photos and taking the photos. And it was really cool, like, way of using photography as a motivator. Something that I had never thought about previously to this, but this was in the player space where players could see it every day. And it did get to the point where players were like, I hit one home run that game. Like, why wasn't I the guy for that game? And it started to like push them a little bit. And I'm not saying it was like the whole reason they won the World Series, but it was a part of the success of that season, and having photography play a part of that was really cool. So, at the end, after we won the World Series, I asked Alex to just to take a simple portrait in front of the finished wall, just to kind of commemorate the whole thing. And I thought that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Let me find out Alex Cora as a creative mind behind him. And that's a pretty cool idea. And I think it shines the perfect light on what you guys do, that the imagery, I mean, imagery sells everything. We remember these big moments by the photos and the videos that encapsulate that moment. So that's such a cool idea.
It was really cool. He's got some marketing chops in him for sure.
Definitely. Is there any players, while we're on the topic, you see so many people go on. I mean, Randy Johnson is a name that jumps out, that
Right.
he's a big professional photographer now. Is there any players that jump out that you're like, they're super into photography. They always want the camera to, or they want to grab you guys' cameras when you're out taking photos?
Yeah, on the team currently, I don't know that there's anyone yet that's been like super into photography, but there have been a few to come through the Red Sox, at least over my time there. One was Chris Young, who was an outfielder. He played for the Yankees for a while,
Mhm.
actually, as well. He was big into photography, and we talked all the time about settings and cameras and all that stuff. And then also Drew Pomerantz, he was a pitcher. He was on this 2018 team, and then bounced around to a couple other teams, but really, kind of became close with Drew initially because of the photography. He's really into it as well. So yeah, it's been cool. There's been a few guys over the years that kind of get into it, and I'm always happy to talk shop and help when I can.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Such an awesome moment.
Yeah, so this was 18. This was the winning moment. So this is kind of what I was referring to, the then team photographer head at the time for the 2013 shot. That was like his version of this shot. So this is 2018's version. So basically like the bread and butter, like pitcher catcher come together, whole team run out behind them, type of thing. And this is one of those times where you're like, I don't want to screw this up. Like, you do feel a little bit of pressure for sure. But I err on the side of going like a little looser, a little wider, to give yourself just like a little bit of margin for error. And I think it worked out because, I didn't know, but this is a Dodger Stadium in LA, and they put up the like World Series champions. So like, it kind of says it all in the photo, like in a very literal way. You could, of course, crop this photo in if you want to go below that sign and just have like the fans and whatever, but you have the option. So going looser, I think, was a good call, and it came together. Pretty
Yeah,
cool.
that's awesome.
And basically, like, this just like
Yeah.
back, like, you shoot this, the dog pile comes together, and then that's all shot from the photo pit, and then you run out to the field with the wide angle, and then you're in it for whatever else happens, like the post game celebrations, all that type of stuff.
Is it like a spray and pray when you guys get in and it's just like a scrum at that point? Is it just like wide angle on and I'm just ripping?
Yeah, you can't think at that point. You just gotta shoot and see what you get, you know. And like you're not making masterpieces at that point. You're just trying to document the scene as best as you can, for sure.
You're not lining up shots, composing everything.
Excuse me. So this one is one of those cool kind of like access pieces. This is Mookie Betts, who was named the MVP of the league, most valuable player of the league in 2018. So that was the year we won the World Series. We knew that he was going to be kind of a finalist to win the award. And he called me and was like, I want to have you down there. This is at his home in Tennessee. He's like, I want to have you down there to document if this happens. We felt like it was, pretty certain that it was going to happen based on the year he had had. So this is everyone. This is his wife right next to him, his mom and his dad outside, rest of his family and childhood friends that he grew up with, and his newborn daughter right there in his arms. This is like the second that they announced it on TV. So they're all watching on TV, and then this is the reaction that you got, which I thought was just cool to be trusted to be in that situation, for a high profile athlete to be trusted in a very meaningful moment. I think is pretty cool. And you see the lights and the mics and stuff. So like MLB Network was there as well because they were doing like the kind of live reaction. But I was there to kind of cover it as a still photographer. And yeah, I think it's just like a great personality moment away from the field, of one of the brightest stars in the game.
That's awesome. And it does answer. I did see a question come in while we were talking about, if the players do reach out and hire you for personal stuff, or do they ever reach out and is like, hey, this picture you took of me in this moment, I need it, gotta have it.
Yeah, they're always asking for the photos for various moments and stuff. And we do a pretty good job of making sure we distribute them as well. But then yeah, there have been plenty of times throughout the years where a player will ask me to do an engagement shoot or a proposal or family portraits or newborn or something like that, or some stuff on the brand side for the various kind of deals that they have with other brands. So yes, that has come through from time to time, and it is definitely a part of it when you get to know certain players. Yeah,
That's awesome. I love those jerseys.
you like them?
I saw the bat behind you and I'm like,
Yeah,
I know they're polarizing. I think they're awesome.
yeah, for sure. So this was this was the yellow jersey that you're referencing is the MLB Nike City Connect jersey. So we were the first team to do it. However, every team has since or will be unveiling a City Connect jersey. And for us, this represented like the yellow was a departure from like tradition. Like you think about the Red Sox, very like iconic, traditional, like the Red Sox font, the Fenway green, like that hasn't changed in 100 years, right? And all of a sudden we're throwing a yellow jersey into the mix. And so we wanted to come up with a way to kind of tell that story and show that campaign in a way that was different from the imagery that we had been putting out in the past. And so we found a group of 6 or 7 what we called catalysts, but basically creative folks around Boston, real people. This is Marlene Motion Mommy is a motion designer. We had fashion designers, DJs, mural artists, and they were kind of the people that we had tell the story of this jersey, representing the bold, vibrant culture of Boston, and use that as a way to kind of break away from tradition. And so this was just one of the various 6 or 7 shoots that we had with those folks around town, kind of photographing them like in their element, doing it, whatever it was that they do best. And so it was cool to just kind of do some more like lifestyle imagery, just a bit of a different take on, advertising for the Red Sox from just a a player wearing a white jersey holding a bat. It's like a totally different approach to doing it.
Yeah, that is cool. And I think it really speaks to what we talked about earlier with now brands being more up with the times and really it's a line of communication between the brands and their fan bases and really just opening that line up.
For sure. And I think, what we kind of realized and what a lot of other teams are realizing is like Red Sox is not just baseball. Like it's not just home runs and pitching, it is a culture. It's like the same with like the Yankees. Like the Yankees logo, you see it around the world, right? It's a culturally relevant, iconic piece. And so we felt like this was the start of, representing that in our marketing and trying to build beyond just the X's and O's of baseball and go into, a lifestyle. And we feel like this was a good entry point into that.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Here we go again.
So same thing here. You're seeing a couple of these images. This is from the Same City Connect campaign. So wardrobe stylist, Chrissy Spacely, just brings an incredible energy in front of the camera and, shooting in front of a bodega, right? Just like an everyday location in the neighborhood. But just, again, kind of showing the folks in their element, where they feel most comfortable and yeah, kind of showing it off in a more kind of like lifestyle, cultural, hip way, than just the old school Red Sox that mom and dad know.
Yeah, I think if you guys make the permanent colorway switch, I might change themes.
Yeah,
This
no,
is that's
yeah,
that's awesome. I mean,
and that,
those look so cool.
yeah, and that's the player representation of it. So basically, the portrait shoe with a few players, yeah, key players at the time. Verdugo, now a New York Yankee. Yeah, so same thing here. Just a basic shoot with the players. Yeah. So this is kind of one that you were talking about earlier with the more like intimate moments where you kind of have to read the room. This was after, so Red Sox were basically one game away from going to the World Series. So this is ALCS, I believe game 6 in 2021. If they had won this game, they would have gone to the World Series, if I'm not mistaken. And so they didn't win the game, pretty somber scene in the clubhouse. Tough to be around, but, treading lightly and with caution, still need to kind of document that, even though it is not the winning moment. And, this was a very quick, fleeting thing that I just happened to see. So it's Alex, the manager, just giving a hug to Kike Hernandez, who was our center fielder at the time. Didn't get it done this game, but still kind of just like a powerful image. This one like resonated with a lot of people. I don't know, it's a simple photo, but I think it's just the way it worked out with kind of the emptiness of the hallway and like them being the only one in the shot, and just kind of like the pose, I think just summed it up pretty much, the circumstance of what happened there. So that was one of those situations where it's like, yeah, just, tough to be in the room and a little bit awkward to be photographing, but you have to do it. And this is, the results you can get sometimes.
Yeah, and I think the environment from somebody, from a fan on the outside looking in, what
Yeah.
sells it for me is it's like, it's not what we're accustomed to seeing. It's not the dugout. It's
Right.
not, the player up on the top step watching the other team celebrate, or it's
Right.
not in the tunnel. It's an office, or a hallway in the outside the training room. It's
Right.
something that you don't normally see. It's not glamorized, and it's just a real moment. It's not playing up for the camera. It's really like a moment that you see, like, these are just regular guys. These are guys who are going to work just like we go to work, and except they put a lot of passion in that they can't always contain.
Totally. And that's our job because we have the access. We're working for the team. We are lucky to have that access into those areas that, fans can't see on TV, or if they go to a game, they can't see. So it's our privilege to be there, but also our job to, show that and pull back the curtain, in an appropriate way. of those things that, you know, the everyday viewer can't see.
That hour flew. We'll close out right here. Switch
Yeah.
it to another sport.
Yeah. Hockey. So this was media day for the Bruins. So basically, Bruins hired us to do the still photography for the whole roster of players for the centennial season of the Boston Bruins, which is this year, or you know, last year going into this year. And so basically, we ran through the entire roster. This is kind of like one of those like car wash situations where you get 1 day or 2 days, and you know all the players on the team are coming through for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And so, yeah, they had this really great, you know, kind of historic backdrop kind of going through the montage of the history of the team. And then, you know, just lighting. And then it's up to me to kind of do some posing and, you know, get some good images. So these are the types of things that get used on all kind of material for the team. So, you know, this is an example of, you know, a game announcement graphic, ticketing, you know, social graphics, all kind of stuff they get used for. So cool to kind of translate it to another sport, you know, and show off a little bit of the same technique and principles, but with a different set of athletes.
Mhm. Now, most of the time we're exposed, us lay people, to professional athletes. It's like now you have professional athletes are analysts, and that's kind of like the post-career move for them. And I think you see a sense of camaraderie across sports where it's like, you know, you have one personality that was a professional hockey player, another personality that was a professional football player, and they share locker room culture. They share the sacrifices and the hard work that goes into being a professional athlete, and they kind of bond. Whereas even though it's not the same sport, it's kind of the same mission and the
Yeah.
same vision and the same set of characteristics that make them who they are. Is there anything that differentiates athletes of different sports, or are they really cut from the same cloth?
I think in my experience, they're cut from the same cloth. You know, they're hyper competitive, they're confident, almost, you know, teetering on cocky, but in a good way, like in a healthy way. They're coachable, they take direction well. You know, and for the most part, they are professional and gracious people. And I think it's is really cool to see like the universal characteristics of athletes across sports. I don't have like an intimate understanding of like hockey players or basketball players like I do baseball players, but I would assume there are some differences for sure. But from my observations, you know, a lot of it is very universal, athlete to athlete, sport to sport.
So all of our coaches weren't lying growing up when they talked about these leadership characteristics and all the
These
stuff
are
that they're
they're
like,
good. They're good. They're good.
Billy, this was awesome, man. You've
Right.
totally in the last hour made me regret not putting in for that position, taking the pay cut years ago.
I think you got it good. Trust me. It's a lifestyle. Like it's, you know, it's a really fun job, but it's, you know, it's a lot of hard work. It's a grind. So it's not all just like fun and games for sure.
Mhm. Well, look, I apologize to everyone out there sending questions, and I know we normally get to questions, but we're gonna have to twist Billy's arm if we haven't scared him away, and see if we can get him back some other time, and maybe we'll do some more Q&A with
Yeah,
the people want to know. You you never know when you're gonna get questions and when you're not, and of course, the
for
one
sure.
time I don't take questions, I get 100 of them in. So
It's okay.
great to see people engaged. But Billy, I want to thank you, man. This was just an awesome, awesome, awesome look into a job that not many of us have a outlet into.
Oh, well, I appreciate you having me on. I had a great time, and you know, thanks to B&H always for the support. We have been a long time users of B&H, and will continue to be. So this was a dream come true to talk with you guys as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for the job security. Because without all those Nikon bodies and lenses, I wouldn't be sitting here
For
right now.
sure.
So huge thank you to Billy. I know you're very busy, so we'll let you get on your way. But I want to thank you again for this time. And look, we'd love to have you back sometime.
I'd love to. That'd be great.
Awesome. Huge thank you to Billy once again, and to all of our viewers out there. Again, I apologize I didn't get to your questions. Next time, we'll get them back for sure. That is it. That's all we have. Another edition of the B&H Virtual Event Space now in the books. Catch y'all next time.